Newly elected Chinese President Xi Jinping starts his visit to Russia, the first leg of his four-day visit since he became the new president earlier in March. During his stay visit to Russia, Xi Jinping will announce the opening of the Chinese tourism year in Russia. He will also deliver a speech at the Moscow State Institute of International Relations. Over the years, China-Russian relations have undergone robust development. Bilateral trade has amounted to $88 billion in 2012, an 11.2% increase year-on-year. On the world stage, China and Russia have strengthened their strategic coordination, facing intricate global and regional situations. President Xi Jinping's visit to Russia this time is expected to promote both countries' pragmatic cooperation in energy, trade, and people-to-people exchanges. So, what is the focus of President Xi Jinping's visit to Russia this time? And how can China and Russia advance their already robust relationship? 你好, you're listening to People in the Know, bringing you insights into the headline news in China and around the world. I'm Zhengcheng Guan in Beijing. First, from the domestic perspective, we speak to Professor Feng Shaolei, Director of the Center for Russian Studies at the East China Normal University. Professor Feng, welcome to the program.
Okay.
Newly elected Chinese President Xi Jinping will be heading to Russia as part of his first overseas trip. And we remember back in 2003, then newly elected Chinese President Hu Jintao also paid his visit to Russia as part of his first overseas trip. Is it a coincidence to you, or is it a sign that Russia has remained on the top priority of China's foreign diplomacy?
Yeah, I think that is really not occasionally historical events. Not only the President Hu Jintao and current President Xi Jinping will soon visit Russia as the first visit. I think really the China-Russia's relation now is first priority for Chinese diplomacy. The reason I think also very clear, Russia is the first country the newly elected Chinese president will visit, which demonstrates the great importance the new Chinese leadership attached to their relations. Personally, I think Xi's first visit also will reveal the uniqueness and particularly high levels of China-Russia's relationship in current time. So I think that is a very important issue for bilateral relations.
We understand that China and Russia have already forged full-fledged comprehensive strategic partnership cooperation. So this time, what kind of progress do you expect will be made in terms of bilateral cooperation during President Xi Jinping's visit? Will both sides be able to hammer out a final deal on the gas supplies which have been in the works for quite some time?
It will be believable. In this turn, we can expect the many things. We can get the big progress, not only in the political bilateral trust, in the economic cooperation. Particularly, I think maybe we can find some of the new progress in the field of energy cooperation. The one thing we should pay attention that some weeks ago, Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Arkady Dvorkovich traveled to China to attend the first meeting of bilateral intergovernmental commission on energy cooperation, which was formed in December of last year to replace the bilateral Russia-China energy dialogue. You can find that really the bilateral institutions for energy cooperation also now occupied at a very high level. Arkady Dvorkovich said that in this term he discussed with Chinese colleagues about a strategic agreement in energy cooperation. And really, among some colleagues also said that this basic agreement will be realized in some months later. So I think we can find really bigger progress in this visit.
Right. This time, Chinese President Xi Jinping will deliver a speech at the Moscow State Institute of International Relations during this visit to Russia. And in 2003, then Chinese President Hu Jintao also delivered a speech at this same institute on his visit to Russia. Why would giving a speech at this Moscow State Institute of International Relations become part of the routine of China's top leaders' visit to Russia?
Yeah, that is a very interesting question. The Moscow State Institute of International Relations is a very famous high school, which established, I think, just after the ending the Second World War, which educated so many Soviet Union's diplomatic elites at that time. And also many professors and excellent experts, just like the dean of this school, just like the Center for SCO Cooperation, and the director of the Faculty of East Asia Studies, all of that kind of high-level professor, we have very close relation with them. And also highest levels of politicians from West, from developing world, when they do the visit to Russia, to Moscow, they always been there to deliver speech to professors and students. So I think for President Xi Jinping, when he first visited to Moscow and to deliver speech at this school, that is a very rational choice.
Right. We understand that President Xi Jinping represents a new generation of Chinese leaders, and this is his first visit to Russia as the new Chinese president. What kind of changes will President Xi bring to Sino-Russia relations? Do you think that the Chinese and the Russian leaders would set the tune for the bilateral relations of the two countries in the coming decade during President Xi's visit this time? And how could China and Russia upgrade their bilateral ties in different fields?
I think really the two countries' strategic mutual trust just now reaches highest level. But still many things we can do. The first thing, for example, just now not only Russia but also China, now we face so tough the question how we can transform our older system. For example, not only Russia but also China will face so important issues just like anti-corruption in the process of transformation. So I think both sides, we have our own transparency. We can exchange our idea and exchange our method, how we deal with that kind of the tough question. And also theoretically, we also can exchange so many things, for example, in that kind of very unique progress for modernization in the so biggest countries, just like Russia and China, how we can keep the balance between the political progress and the economic development. That kind of situation, I don't think another country they have faced in the early period. Particularly economically, I think Russia and China, we can enhance our business cooperation. For example, the bilateral trade amounting to $88 billion in last year. So I think we can get the progress and 11% increase year on year. That is big progress. But also I think we can find many new fields to get progress, for example, not only in the energy cooperation, but also in another field, just like high-tech space, the rocket space, that kind of high-tech area. And also, even in the agricultural sector, we can do more things because many experts say when East Asia, particularly China, is rising, space, energy, environment, these kind of issues should be resolved. But just from Russia's side, we can find the basis so huge resources. By this understanding, I think really China and Russia, we can find more complementary in the economic progress.
Right. In security terms, we understand that China and Russia are both important members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. How do you look at the future prospects of China-Russian cooperation in terms of security, especially to enhance regional security and stability and to fight the three evils?
Yeah, SCO issues always occupied as the first priority for Sino-Russia's cooperation. Next year, I think 2014, that is the year of U.S. troops withdrawal from Afghanistan. That is a big issue not only for Southern Asia, but also for the area of SCO, the countries. By the way, I'd like to mention that we can find two high-level officials, one from China and another from Russia side. For example, from Russia side would Mr. Medvedev. He's my old friend. Just now he is Secretary in General for SCO. I think in his period, he can deliver his very rich transparency to promote the cooperation among the different member countries in the framework of SCO. And another thing, and China's high-level officials will be the representative not only from China, but also all of the member countries working in the Center for Anti-Terrorism in Dushanbe. It will be beneficial for future cooperation among all the countries. So anyway, I think not only in the field of economic cooperation, but also we can find some progress in the field of the regional security cooperation and stability.
How about on the international politics arena? We understand that China and Russia share a lot of common stance on international issues. For instance, the Syrian issue. How do you see that China and Russia can jointly deal with international issues and advance their own agendas as far as the Korean and Iranian nuclear issue and the Syrian issues are concerned?
Both Russia and China will share more close that kind of position, not only about Iranian issue, Peninsula issue, Syria issue, and also many international affairs. We can find that kind of very close and similar position from Russia and China. Both sides always believe that dialogue and negotiation is the only right way to solve the Iranian nuclear issue, the Peninsula issue, including Syria issue. Too much the sanction will not help solve that kind of issue, and the use of force is even more undesirable. So I think China and Russia support the Security Council in taking the necessary and appropriate reaction to DPRK's nuclear test. Meanwhile, I think the reaction should be conducive to denuclearization of the peninsula and overall peace and stability of the peninsula and Northeast Asia. So I think after this visit, we can find the more progress in the field of the global issues. China and Russia will have the more cooperation.
My last question, Professor Feng. This year ushers in the year of Chinese tourism in Russia, and this event is apparently aimed at promoting tourism and people-to-people exchanges between the two countries. During the past few years, China and Russia have organized other similar activities to promote each other's cultures and languages. How do you rate the effect of these activities in promoting China-Russian relations, and how do you look at the prospects of the year of Chinese tourism in Russia in 2013?
That is also very important issues between Russia and China for exchanging more deep cooperation. For example, last year, some millions of people going down to Russia and fly to Shanghai and Beijing. That kind of people-to-people exchanges between both sides is very helpful for mutual understanding between both sides. For example, last year, Shanghai's vice mayor, he had led the special delegation to visit Moscow and St. Petersburg to develop tourism for both sides. Not only northern of China, so many people know more about Russian history, Russia's culture. They always got very nice cooperation with Russia's businessmen, with Russia's cultural institutions. And even in southern China, for example, in Shanghai, also many people always keep very traditional feeling on Russia's history and Russia's culture. So I think tourist year for both sides, that is very important arrangement. But later we can do more in this field. For example, I just am working in universities. In Russia, also, there are many excellent universities, excellent academic institutions who can do more exchanging between both sides, between professors, academians, and also between the students.
That was Professor Feng Shaolei, Director of the Center for Russian Studies at the East China Normal University in Shanghai, talking about Chinese President Xi Jinping's upcoming visit to Russia. Professor Feng, thank you very much indeed for your insights.
Thank you.
Our discussion continues after a short break. I'm Chen Guang, host of People in the Know. Every Monday to Friday, I talk to experts, analysts, and insiders to bring you insights into the headline news in China and around the world. Join People in the Know online at CRIEnglish.com, CRIBeyondBeijing.com, and exclusively here at China Radio International. 你好, you're listening to People in the Know, bringing you insights into the headline news in China and around the world. I'm Zhencheng Guan in Beijing. In today's program, we're taking a look at Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to Russia. Next, from the Russian side, we speak to Yulia Lukina, Junior Research Fellow of the Center for East Asian and SCO Studies in the Moscow State Institute of International Relations. Yulia, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Newly elected Chinese President Xi Jinping are going to Russia as part of his first overseas stay visits after taking office. And we remember back in 2003, then newly elected Chinese President Hu Jintao also paid his first overseas visit to Russia after becoming the Chinese president. So, should we say that the China-Russia relation is now the priority of priorities for the Chinese foreign diplomacy?
Thank you very much for the question. Today, China and Russia enjoy relations of a comprehensive strategic partnership, and for sure, the fact that Russia is chosen as the first overseas destination for China's President Xi Jinping emphasizes the importance of Russia's track in China's foreign policy, thus signaling that developing ties with Russia is among key priorities for the Chinese administration in the coming decade. President Xi Jinping's visit to Moscow is of great significance for Russia, for it demonstrates Beijing's commitment to further develop and deepen their bilateral ties.
We understand that China and Russia have already forged a very crucial relationship, that is the comprehensive strategic partnership. What kind of progress do you expect to be made this time in terms of bilateral cooperation during President Xi Jinping's visit to Russia? And do you think that both sides will be able to clinch a final deal on the gas supplies, which have been in the talks for quite a long time?
During President Xi Jinping's visit to Russia, a broad range of issues is expected to be on the agenda: political and diplomatic cooperation, economic and investment issues, as well as relationship in energy sphere. This visit will undoubtedly contribute to stronger mutual trust between the two countries, thus redefining the basis of the China-Russia relationship. As for energy sphere, China is an important and vast market for Russia's exports of energy resources. China, in turn, due to its rapid economic growth, is highly interested in stable and safe energy supplies. Yet the countries have not agreed upon a gas supply deal, which has been negotiated for about 6 years already. And hopefully the parties will manage to agree on the terms of gas supply this time. And if realized, Russia would export about 70 billion cubic meters of gas to China annually during the next 30 years.
China has just produced its new generation of leaders recently, and President Xi Jinping is now going to Russia as the new president of China. Do you think that the Chinese and the Russian leaders would set a new tune for their bilateral relations during President Xi Jinping's visit for the coming decade?
The forthcoming visit of President Xi Jinping is a great opportunity for both Russia's and China's leaders to exchange views on the ways to enhance bilateral cooperation and to exchange opinions on key international and regional issues. The two countries cooperate closely within multilateral formats such as the BRICS, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the Group of G20. Though there is much room for further growth, the countries are gradually increasing the volume of bilateral trade. We witnessed the expansion of mutual investment, energy, and regional cross-border cooperation. China and Russia have set a target of $100 billion for bilateral trade by 2015 and $200 billion by 2020. The forthcoming visit of President Xi Jinping is viewed in Russia as an opportunity to provide an additional impetus to further enhance and deepen their bilateral ties in economic, energy, tourism, and other areas.
China and Russia are members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which has kept expanding in its roles. In your understanding, how can China and Russia strengthen cooperation to jointly fight the common challenges they face so as to enhance regional security and stability?
It is true that both Russia and China attach great importance to defense and security cooperation within the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The organization set ambitious goals, and since its foundation, it really evolved into an influential mechanism of regional peace and stability. For sure, transparent dialogue on security issues as well as consultation mechanism contribute significantly to enhancing regional security. Besides, the two countries can further develop joint projects, especially in transport, infrastructure, and energy spheres, which would involve Central Asian countries, so that all parties would be interested in maintaining stability in the region. Cooperation in social and educational fields is also an important factor in providing regional security. As an illustration, the SCO Summer School for Students from universities of the SCO member states has proved itself as an important contribution to better understanding of security challenges the region is facing. So, on a student level. In my view, despite close cooperation on security issues, the Russia-China relations so far have not reached their full potential, and much work still lies ahead.
Yulia, we understand that China and Russia are both permanent members of the UN Security Council, and they both have growing clout in international politics. How should China and Russia jointly deal with international challenges or issues, for instance, the Korean and Iranian nuclear issue and the Syrian issue?
The two countries, they do not form any strategic alliance, and thus diplomatic cooperation and consultations are key mechanisms of dealing with international challenges. Both countries could join their diplomatic efforts to bring the conflicting parties to the negotiating table. Though some previous efforts did not bring about the settlement of the problems mentioned, and we are still witnessing the ongoing crisis in Syria, intensified tensions on the Korean Peninsula, with the Iranian issue still on the agenda. Nevertheless, both countries have great diplomatic potential, political and economic leverage to cope with those issues through bilateral consultation and through multilateral cooperation within other regional entities.
Due to historical reasons, China and Russia share a lot of things in common, especially with regard to their national conditions and development patterns. And China now is in the transitional period, and Russia too is calling for more reform. How can both sides learn from each other so as to chalk up better social transformation?
Well, that is true that both countries face domestic challenges of social character. For instance, a huge inequality gap in China and a demographic decline in Russia. China's economic reforms resulted in a considerable improvement in social well-being, it should be noted. This is a useful experience that Russia can learn from. Both countries are also facing the prospect of an aging population, and recent social unrest in both countries have demonstrated the need for better social regulation from the governments of both countries. In fact, there is much similarity in social challenges the two countries are facing, and in my view, consultation and exchanges of opinions could be a great use for both sides.
My last question, Yulia. This year ushers in the year of Chinese tourism in Russia, and apparently this event is aimed at promoting tourism and people-to-people exchanges between the two countries. And in the past few years, China and Russia have organized other similar activities to promote each other's cultures and the languages. How do you rate the effects of these activities in terms of promoting China-Russian relations? And how do you look at the prospects of the year of Chinese tourism in Russia?
In fact, people-to-people ties is the basis of any relationship, either economic or political. That is why the two countries are attaching a greater priority to developing stronger social foundation of their bilateral relations. The opening of the Chinese Tourism Year in Russia will definitely help deepen understanding between the peoples of the two countries and provide Russians with an opportunity to learn more about Chinese history, traditions, and culture, and hopefully to eradicate the long-standing prejudices and fears which impede stronger cultural, business, and other ties.
That was Yulia Lukina, Junior Research Fellow of the Center for East Asian and SCO Studies in the Moscow State Institute of International Relations, talking about Chinese President Xi Jinping's upcoming visit to Russia. Yulia, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.